So if I click record, yay. All right, we're recording. All of these pictures are going to have parallel lines, and they're going to be crossed by a transversal. All right, so I'm going to draw 2 stars in 2 corners. And your job over in the question comments area, I want you to type in the type of relationship that I starred. So if I put a star right here, and I put the other star down here, go over to the comments and type in what you would call those 2 angles. Would you call them corresponding? Would you call them vertical, alternate interior, alternate exterior, same side interior, same side exterior? All right, I've got one person said vertical, another person said alternate exterior. I want to hear some more. I know Gage and Taylor are not the only 2. Jacob Northrop said alternate exterior. Julian said alternate exterior. Okay, so these 2 angles are alternate exterior. And let me explain why. They're on opposite sides of the transversal. That's where this alternate comes from. So if they're ever one on one side, the other on the other side, you're going to use the word alternate. Now, since both of these are outside the parallel lines, that's where the exterior is coming from. Had they been inside the parallel lines, we would have called it alternate interior angles. Okay, there's one other thing I want to point out. The person who said vertical, I actually don't hate that guess because I want to remind you that the relationship between these 2 angles is the same sort of relationship that we would see if they were vertical angles. Vertical angles, sorry, that's my kid. Vertical angles are just directly across the vertex. Alternate exterior, like we said, are outside parallel line, opposite sides of the transversal. But there's a word to talk about the size of all the angles that I just put a star on. Those are all of the obtuse angles. And since those are vertical, and these are vertical, and alternate exterior and alternate interior, we have a word for all of those ones that are the same size and shape. That word is congruent. So whenever it's alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, yes, I am recording this right now, Trillium. Whenever it's alternate interior, exterior, and whenever it's vertical or corresponding, they are going to be congruent. So if you've got a sheet of paper right now, it might be helpful to write that down, or some of you already have it written down if you took notes the other day. But I'm gonna write down, let's see. I'm gonna write down congruent. And I am going to list all of the angle pairs that are congruent. So the first one, alternate interior. Second one is alternate exterior. I want you to see if you can come up with the next few that are congruent while I go and make sure my kid does not fall down the stairs.
Where am I?
All right. So what other angles do we have? Oh, I see this. Okay, apparently Gage needs to check it out. Perfect. Okay, we've got alternate interior and exterior. The other ones that are going to be congruent are vertical angles, and I feel like I'm forgetting one. Corresponding. Okay, those are going to be all of our congruent angles. On the other side, I'm going to list all of our supplementary angles. And I'm going to remind you what supplementary means. Is that my computer making that weird sound? It might be. Hold on. I'm just going through and muting everybody. Okay. All right, so supplementary angles are going to be same side interior and same side exterior. So those are the only two angles that are going to be supplementary. And what that means, and I'm going to write this in a nice bright color. I'll write it in pink. These add up to, you can't really read that. These ones are going to add up to 180 degrees. So if you've done your quiz already today, you'll see that we had one of them that was supplementary and one of them that was congruent. So when it's supplementary, you add them up and you set them equal to 180 degrees. When they're congruent, all you're going to do is set them equal. You're going to set them equal to each other, and then you can just solve for x. Okay, so the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions were all problems like this, where you had to see if they were same side interior, vertical angles, corresponding, and all that stuff. I'm going to link one more time tomorrow that same picture that I've put on every single day. That same picture that says, it says all the angle relationships. I am telling you right now, leave a tab open on your screen with all of those relationships tomorrow during your test so that you can refer to that. Or print it off and have it on your desk. Whatever it is, make sure that you can refer back to that page during tomorrow's test. Okay, so now let's talk about problems like this. Let's see. I'm going to erase these stars. And if you have a sheet of paper in front of you, I want you to draw this picture. 2 parallel lines with a transversal crossing them. And I'm going to put in one angle, and I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to say that this is 125 degrees. If I give you that one angle, the idea behind this next thing is that you can figure out every other angle in the entire picture. So there's a couple of them that are really easy to find. We know that this top angle is in the same exact position as this angle over here. Those are called corresponding. Since they're corresponding, they're the same exact size. They are equal to each other. They're congruent. So down here, I'm going to put 125 degrees. All right, then we can also find this angle down here. This goes back to the one that Gage told us before. These are vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent. They're the same exact size. So down here, I'm going to put 125 degrees. All right, now this last angle, there's a bunch of different ways I could get this last angle. First of all, probably easiest, it's vertical, but also it's corresponding with this bottom angle. And then lastly, it's alternate exterior angles with that top left angle. So it's 125 degrees. So you can see that all of the obtuse angles in this picture were congruent. Then the big question is, how the heck do we find the other angles? If anybody knows, feel free to type it into the comments on the side. How do we find, for example, this angle? It's not going to be 125 degrees. Oh, Ms. Duhlmeyer's calling me. Fun, I wonder what that's about. I'm just going to not accept that right now. Okay, everybody look over at the comments what Jacob Northrup said. 180 minus 125. Anybody got a calculator? What do we get when we do 180 minus 125? Miss Hardman, can you text Miss Dolmeyer and tell her we're on a live chat? Thank you. Someone with a calculator or a better mental math brain than me, what does that give us? 55? Thank you, Jason. 55. Okay, so that means this angle is 55 degrees. I'm going to remind you how we got that. These two angles are same side interior. They are supplementary. That means together they add up to 180. So if I do this angle plus this angle, I should get 180 degrees. But if I don't know what it is, then the way that I find it is by doing 180 minus this 125. And that's where I get 55 degrees. And then I can start filling in all the others. These are vertical angles, so 55 degrees. These are alternate interior angles, 55 degrees. And then corresponding angles, 55 degrees. All right, so that was covering questions 8, where I gave you, hold on, let me show that up there. On number 8, I told you that 7 was a certain size, and I told you to find the other one. That covers pretty much through number 10. So now I want to talk about problems 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Those are pretty much just 2 separate problems, but I split them up into 3 parts each. So I'm going to erase all these things again. And if you're following along on your own blank paper, I suggest that you draw a new picture of this. Draw a new picture of parallel lines with a transversal. This is really hard to I should have just erased the whole thing. It's too late, I'm committing. Okay. I'm going to show you the example that we had on the test. It's slightly different because the angles are on the other sides. But we had 115 degrees, and then across from that, 16x plus 3. The first question that I asked you about this is to name the relationship between those 2 angles. So if you're looking at that page of notes that I keep referring back to, those 2 angles are directly across the vertex from each other. So they are vertical angles. That means they're congruent, and the word congruent says set them equal. Okay, so I'm going to do that work over here. Oh boy. I showed you all this last time. I'm like kneeling. This thing is so creepily close to the floor of my house. So that's why you can see Miss Johnson hobbling around right now. Okay, so since these are congruent, I'm going to set them equal, and I'm going to start that over here. I'm going to say that 115 equals 16x plus 3. All right. Then this is like stuff we learned at the beginning of the year. I can separate these 2 sides, and my job is to solve for x. So I can subtract 3 from both sides, and I get 112 equals 16x. All right, I do not have a calculator on me, and I can guarantee you that I don't know the answer to 112 divided by 16. Will someone with a calculator or a better mental math brain chime in the comments right now? Jacob Northrup said 7. If nobody disagrees with him, oh, looks like a lot of people agree with him, so we're going to go with 7. We're going to say 7 equals x. So there's my answer for number 13. So the 3 questions that I asked in relationship to this kind of problem on the test tomorrow. First of all, I say, what's the relationship? And you've got to pick one of these 6 things. Then I ask you, is it congruent or is it supplementary? And then I ask you to solve for x. Those are the only 3 things I ask you to do. Any questions on this problem? I know it's like creepy silent because everybody's muted. If you've got questions, put them over there. If you don't have questions, that's fine. Just keep staring at me intently. Hi, Brooklyn Gage and Holden. I see the 3 of you right now. Wonderful. Okay, I am going to do one more problem then. I'm going to do what was essentially the last 3 problems on the practice test. So it looked like this. There were 2 parallel lines. These are not straight lines. You will make it. And then they were crossed by this transversal. Okay, then it was 30 degrees in that corner, and then 2x plus 20 in the other corner. That's really poor handwriting because I wrote it poorly. But the first question that I would ask you there, what is the relationship between those 2 angles? If you've got an answer, you can type it in the comments over there. What is the relationship between the 2 angles shown in the picture? Is it alternate interior, exterior, vertical, corresponding, same side interior, or same side exterior? Rylan said, it's okay. I'm not sure why he said that. But thank you, Rylan. The waiting part's my favorite. Anybody know what it is? Same side interior from Julia. I could still read it from Rylan. I'm really happy for you, Rylan. Okay, same side interior. Let's make sure that Julia's got the right idea there. Same side of the transversal, perfect. And interior means they're on the inside. Absolutely, those are the 2 things we need there. So we would say same side interior, then I'm gonna find it in my lineup right here. So the next question says, is it congruent or is it supplementary? Look at where I'm pointing, 8th graders. Same side interiors are supplementary. So that means it's gonna add up to 180 degrees. So I'm gonna take all this stuff and add it together and set it equal to 180. So I will have 30 plus 2x plus 20 equals 180. Now I'm just solving this like a normal equation. All right, I'm gonna start by combining the 30 and the 20 because those are alike. 30 plus 20 is 50. So I have 2x plus 50. I hope my calculators are ready. I might be able to do this one in my head, but I have my doubts. Okay, thank you, whoever said 130. Thanks, Rylan. Subtract 50 from both sides, and I get 2x equals 130. Last step, divide by 2, and I've got x equals 65. Thank you. 8th graders, that's probably the hardest thing I'm gonna ask of you on this whole test. All right, I would like you to, hopefully your background